In June 2016, the city of Louisville, Kentucky shut down. Police closed off miles of streets. Tens of thousands of people flew in from across the globe. World leaders, former presidents, Hollywood legends, all gathered in one place. And at the center of it all, a $25,000 mahogany casket rolling down a boulevard named after the man inside it. This wasn't the funeral of a president. This wasn't a royal ceremony. This was the send-off for a boxer. But not just any boxer. This was Muhammad Ali. And the way they buried him, it was unlike anything America had ever seen. Some called it the funeral of the century. Others said it made Michael Jackson's look small. So today, we're going inside Muhammad Ali's $1 million funeral. The private procession, the A-list names, the costs, the details nobody talks about, and the one thing Ali himself insisted on that shocked everybody. Stay until the end, because the last detail might be the most surprising thing about all of it. To understand why this funeral was so massive, you have to understand who Muhammad Ali was, not just as a boxer, but as a symbol. He grew up as Cassius Clay in Louisville, Kentucky, son of a sign painter, raised in a segregated city where Black Americans couldn't eat at the same lunch counters or drink from the same water fountains as white people. And yet, from a young age, this kid had a fire inside him that nobody could ignore. At 18, he won Olympic gold in Rome, came home a hero, then walked into a restaurant in Louisville and got turned away because of the color of his skin. Some say he threw that gold medal into the Ohio River that night. Whether that's true or not, it tells you everything about the world he was navigating. He became heavyweight champion of the world 3 times, but boxing was almost the least interesting thing about him. In 1966, the US government drafted him to fight in Vietnam, and Ali refused, flat out. He said he had no quarrel with the Viet Cong. He said no black man should be fighting a war for a country that treated his people like they didn't matter. The government stripped him of his heavyweight title, banned him from boxing for 3.5 years, the prime years of his career. He faced 5 years in prison. Most people would have folded. Ali didn't move an inch. He converted to Islam, changed his name from Cassius Clay, and doubled down on everything that made him controversial. And when he finally came back to boxing in 1970, he didn't just return, he became even greater. The Thriller in Manila, the Rumble in the Jungle. He beat George Foreman when nobody on earth thought he could. He was 32 years old, past his prime, against a man who had demolished every opponent he faced, and Ali knocked him out in 8 rounds. He lit the Olympic torch in Atlanta in 1996, his hands visibly shaking from Parkinson's disease, his body betraying him in front of the entire world, and he held that torch steady until the flame was lit. He was more than a sports figure. He was a symbol, and when he died on June 3rd, 2016, at 74 years old, the world felt it. So how do you send off a man like that? Well, Ali actually planned it himself, years in advance, and what he put together, along with his wife Lonnie, was something truly extraordinary. Here's something most people don't realize. Ali's funeral didn't just come together in a week. His wife Lonnie started planning it a decade before he passed. Not because she thought he was going to die, but because there are some things you just have to do. Ali had been living with Parkinson's disease for over 30 years. The family knew that when the time came, the world would be watching, and they wanted to get it right. Ali had specific wishes. He wanted to be buried in Louisville, the city that made him. He wanted it open to everyone, not just the rich and powerful. And he wanted it rooted in his Islamic faith. So the family designed not 1, not 2, but a full week of events across the city, and each one was more remarkable than the last. It all started on June 9th, 2016, the day before the big memorial. In Islam, when a Muslim dies, a janaza must be performed, a funeral prayer that is considered a communal obligation. If no one in the community fulfills it, the entire community is considered to have sinned. That's how seriously it's taken. The body is washed, wrapped in a plain white cloth called a kafan, and prayers are recited over it before burial. There's no elaborate ceremony, no eulogies, no music, just worship. Ali's janaza was held at Freedom Hall in Louisville, the same arena where he won his very first professional fight back in 1961. 55 years later, he was returning, this time in a casket. Over 14,000 people packed into Freedom Hall. The service lasted only a few minutes. People stood in long, silent lines, reciting the same prayers Muslims have recited over their dead for 1,400 years. No fanfare, no cameras on the casket, just community. Muslim organizations and mosques around the world held their own prayers at the exact same time, in solidarity. But the detail that hits hardest? Ali's burial shroud. Years before his death, Ali and Lonnie quietly contacted a family-owned textile company and ordered a traditional kafan, the plain white cloth. They did it anonymously. No name, no explanation. When the man who made it finally found out it was for Muhammad Ali, he was stunned. He said if he'd known, he would have made it more extravagant. And that was exactly the point. Ali wanted to be buried like any other Muslim. No gold, no silk, no special treatment. Just a plain white shroud, the same as the poorest man on earth. In a world obsessed with status, that was his final statement. Now, June 10th, the main event. Ali's body was placed in a $25,000 mahogany casket, one of the most expensive coffins money can buy, hand-finished solid wood, the kind reserved for heads of state and royalty. It was loaded into a 2016 Cadillac XTS, specially modified into a hearse in Ohio. The driver was 33-year-old Chase Porter, whose family funeral home had also buried Ali's own mother and father. There was something deeply poetic about that. The procession began, and almost immediately, the first rose landed on the windshield. Then another, then dozens, then hundreds. People lined the streets 10 deep. Some had been waiting since before sunrise. They threw flowers, roses mostly, at the hearse as it rolled past. The driver tried to use the windshield wipers to clear them. It didn't work. By the end of the route, the car was completely buried in petals. Children ran alongside the hearse trying to touch it. Old men wept on street corners. Women held up signs with Ali's face. Boxing gloves hung from lampposts and historical markers outside his childhood home. A 2-year-old girl in the crowd wore oversized boxing gloves too big for her tiny hands. The route stretched over 23 miles, all the way down Muhammad Ali Boulevard, which used to be called Walnut Street before the city renamed it in his honor. It passed his boyhood home at 3302 Grand Avenue, now restored as a museum. It passed Central High School. It passed Beecher Terrace, the housing complex where he grew up. It passed the Muhammad Ali Center, the $80 million monument to his life that resembles a presidential library. Tens of thousands lined those streets. Some had flown in from Europe, from the Middle East, from Asia.
Been on like 3 hours of sleep in the last 3 days. I'm just happy. 2,000 miles we drove.
One man drove all the way from California just to stand on that sidewalk and watch the hearse go by. He said it didn't seem like too much to travel for a lifetime of inspiration. Sports Illustrated said this was the kind of send-off reserved for heads of state. Journalists said the last time an athlete's funeral came close to this in America was Babe Ruth's in 1948. And even that, they said, didn't feel like this. After the private burial at Cave Hill Cemetery, the doors of the KFC Yum Center opened. A 22,000-seat arena in downtown Louisville transformed into something closer to a cathedral. Tickets were completely free. First come, first served. The Ali family insisted. No VIP pricing, no tiers, just people lining up around the block for a chance to say goodbye. Around 15,000 people filled that arena. Former President Bill Clinton delivered a eulogy. Comedian Billy Crystal spoke for over 10 minutes. Spike Lee was there. King Abdullah II of Jordan attended. George Foreman and Larry Holmes, men who fought Ali tooth and nail, sat in the crowd. Will Smith helped carry the casket. Lennox Lewis was a pallbearer. The service was interfaith. Christian pastors, Jewish rabbis, Muslim imams, all sharing the same stage. Ali had always insisted his legacy belonged to everyone. This memorial proved it. Now, the question everyone wants answered. How much did this actually cost? The Ali family never released a total number. It's never been officially disclosed. But let's break down what we know. The casket alone was $25,000. The custom Cadillac hearse, modified specifically for the procession, that's tens of thousands more. Then you have the janaza at Freedom Hall, the memorial at a 22,000-seat arena, the full week of citywide events, the logistics of transporting a body from Scottsdale, Arizona to Louisville, Kentucky, and the massive security operation covering miles of streets plus 15,000 people inside a venue. For reference, Ronald Reagan's state funeral in 2004 is estimated to have cost hundreds of millions of dollars when you factor in all government and military resources. Now, Ali's wasn't a government funeral, but the coordination, the scale, the security, the production, it was operating in that same universe. And that's before you consider the Muhammad Ali Center itself, the $80 million monument to his life that anchored the entire week, or the city infrastructure that had to be shut down, rerouted, and managed for days. The title $1 Million Funeral might genuinely be underselling it, but here's the part nobody talks about. And this is what you stayed for. For 8 straight days after Muhammad Ali died, the city of Louisville recorded 0 violent crimes. 0. In a city that had been in the middle of a record streak of violence, tens of thousands of strangers poured in, emotions running at an all-time high, and the city went completely quiet, peaceful, like it was holding its breath. The 3 Louisville homicide detectives assigned to manage the funeral were the last ones at the hospital when Ali took his final breath. And they were the last ones standing at his graveside when the burial was done, staying in their suits and ties until every shovel of dirt was in place, until the job was finished. The next morning, one of them went back to work and had to investigate a murder. Just like that, the world without Ali began. And that contrast, the peace that surrounded his death, and the harsh reality that snapped back the moment it was over, might be the most powerful thing about this entire story. Ali didn't want a gold-plated spectacle. He wanted a plain white burial shroud and a teaching moment. He wanted every person, every race, every faith to feel welcome. And even in death, somehow, he pulled it off. And so if you told that kid from Louisville, son of a sign painter, raised in a segregated city, stripped of his title, threatened with prison, that one day the entire world would stop to say goodbye to him, he probably would have smiled and said he already knew, because he was Muhammad Ali and he was the greatest. If you made it this far, drop a comment telling me which part hit different, the burial shroud, the rose-covered hearse, or those 8 days of 0 crime. I read every single one. And if you want more stories like this, make sure you're subscribed. See you in the next one.